You didn't think I was just asking you for no reason, right? We're gonna make a video about what I'm asking you on the polls, and I'm gonna give some hot takes, my opinion. Let's get down to it because we have too many things to talk about. The first question that I ask you is, when it comes to watches, I only trust, and your answer is made anywhere as long as it's quality. You say that at 48%. And then the very next is Japan with Switzerland. We have a tie there, and 8% in Germany, which I think is a little strange. Many of you commented in other questions that are going to come up about German watches, Glashütte Original, Nomos, even Lange. And you talk about the kind of quality that the Germans have, Zin even, and this is not reflected here, which I think is strange. And many also were very upset about parts of luxury watches being made in China or other not rich countries, and this is not reflected here. So let's see. Another subject that Teddy Baldassar commented very well on is how many people say one thing, do another. And this is reflected on watches and how we push companies. And he was talking specifically about AP and how everybody kept telling AP that they need to do something else other than the Royal Oak. And once they did, it didn't sell. So we say one thing, we mean another. Same thing, I will add, goes to Grand Seiko. Many people talk highly about Grand Seiko, but then in the next turn, they go and they buy something else. So keep that in mind as we go through these polls. I trust this brand is more Swiss than the rest. Rolex is number one, 59%. And then we have Tudor at 8%, Omega 15%, IWC 18%. And I agree on this one. I would say Tudor and Omega are probably equally Swiss at this point, although one is more luxurious than the other, to be fair. That's Omega. In my opinion, luxury is, and I have some options here, and number one came build quality and value, which I put it there as a tricky question to see if you guys are going to bite it, and you did. 42% build quality and value. Luxury, by definition, is not supposed to be making a lot of sense because it's luxury. That's why you also have all watches are luxury. In my opinion, to begin with, all watches are luxury. And then only 25% say build quality and scarcity, and 17% high price and historical value. So build quality and value, that would mean then that for most of you guys, if this is true, Christopher Ward is the epitome of luxury because it's a great value watch and a great build quality. So you know what I'm saying? You know what I was saying at the beginning? It's kind of strange how you guys answer these questions. Now then I ask, Omega, in my opinion, is comparable to Rolex or Tudor. Rolex 61%, Tudor 39%. And on this one, I have to agree that although it's more close to Rolex, it's increasingly closer to Tudor. And I don't think it's only Omega not stepping up as much. Like if you see ever one of these watchmakers taking out movements and the way Rolex movements are decorated, machine decorated, granted, but decorated nevertheless. They're beautifully decorated with just perlage, but it's still decorated everywhere. And then you see an Omega movement that might be even better, technologically speaking, and it's just plain. The plates are just plain. The bridges, only the top bridge is decorated, and then everything else inside is just stamped metal. So, it's becoming, and Tudor has been increasing their quality so much that the lines are getting blurry every day. Breitling, in my opinion, is closer to Rolex 28%, 72% Tudor. And I agree again on this one. Breitling, in the current stage, is closer to a Tudor than a Rolex. And it used to be the opposite. I have a whole video talking about this, and I feel very bad about it because I love Breitling. I own Breitling. And I think it's a shame. It's a shame. Grand Seiko, in my opinion, is closer to Rolex, 68%, Tudor, 32%. And I agree on this one. I don't see, honestly, almost any resemblance to Tudor, quality-wise. The bracelets obviously are crappy, but anything else, the case, the finish, the movement, the finish, the technology, the finish on the hands, the dials themselves, we're talking different level of craftsmanship when it comes to a Grand Seiko. So for me, it's actually, except for the bracelet, 100% more like a Rolex. In my opinion, Tag Heuer is closer to Rolex, 7%, Tudor 93%. Not much to argue about here. I agree 100%. Panerai, in my opinion, is closer to Rolex, 31%, Tudor 69%. I would agree with this 10 years ago when Panerai was caught having basic ETA movement and decorated and just throwing them in their case. Granted, that case being very unique. I would say today Panerai is closer to a Rolex because they increased their in-house movements. They increased whatever in-house is, and we're gonna get there. There's a nice video showing how they make their cases, how they make dials, how they make many components of the watch in-house, and then sourcing some parts. But right now, I think Panerai, although it's not as hype as it used to be, is much closer to a Rolex than it was at its hype back in the day. IWC is closer to Rolex, 63%, Tudor, 37%. I don't know where you see the resemblance. We're not talking about, obviously, like looks to Tudor. IWC, I mean, they make some amazing watches, unique watches, extremely complicated watches. At the very minimum, they give you right now the Pilot 20, which is 5 days power reserve, a very decently decorated movement, although not all the way through. 100-meter water resistant, beautiful bracelets. Again, those bracelets that I talked to a different video that they share with JLC, with Glashut Original, amazing bracelets. Come on, like much closer to Rolex. But yeah, this I think this is a fair-ish poll. Rolex, in my opinion, is closer to Patek Philippe, 15%, Omega 85%. Not much argument here. I agree, although price-wise, they're much closer to Patek than an Omega, at least on average. And we're not even going to go secondary market, but secondary market also should not be... it cannot be a tell sign of what is a good watch, because I can give you many brands that don't do as well on the secondary market but are extremely high level, and they don't deserve where they are. It's only because of preference and because of YouTubers that are really dealers that make watches and shape opinions on YouTube that some watches perform better than others. They stockpile specific type of watches, and then when they hype them, people try to buy them, and then they can sell them at great prices. Very good game, I guess, very profitable, but that doesn't mean these watches. I would immediately bring you an example. Ulysse Nardin. Ulysse Nardin is a high-end watch of the likes of Patek AP, I would argue, and right now is extremely low priced at Tudor prices at some points, at some watches. Tudor level pricing for an amazing watch. yet people don't appreciate it because nobody talks about them. And then I asked you about the opinion for the best watch is Richard Mille, 7%, FP Journe, 27, Lange, 66, and I agree with exactly this. I wouldn't change anything. I think Lange is incredible. It doesn't matter that it's owned by a big conglomerate. FP Journe, independent, but honestly, although I know everything is by hand and whatever, their designs don't talk to me at all. And then Richard Mille, it's the most tacky, ugly watch for the most part that I've seen. And even if I had the money, I would never buy one. Never. I just don't see the hype. Now, the best out of the Holy Trinity, in my opinion, is Patek, 35%, Vacheron, 53%, AP, 12%. I'm very surprised, pleasantly surprised, that Vacheron is at 53%. I was thinking that I would have a roast on this one. I would come out and say, oh, you guys, Patek, but Vacheron is where it's at. And obviously you guys know. So I would actually do exactly the same ranking. Incredible. Now, if I only had one watch, it would be a diver, 53%, pilot watch, 8%, dress, 8%, go anything, do anything, 31%, which is extremely accurate comparing to what you see, how watches sell in the secondary market. And I only mentioned the secondary market here because I buy in the secondary market, so I know what people are buying, because I know I want to buy some watches and they're not available or they don't drop in price ever. And with divers is number one on that issue. And Gada watches, I mean, personally, I would be between the two, either diver or a Gada watch. So yeah, 100%. Now, the best mid-range brand, in my opinion, is Christopher Ward, 8%, Oris, 8%, Tudor, 52%, Longines, 32%. That is a good ranking. That is an excellent ranking, actually. Christopher Ward, I want to talk about Christopher Ward a little bit. They came out of nowhere, and they've been building an amazing watch for many years. I bought as a gift one for a cousin of mine, and I bought it in the secondary market. It was like $650 for a Trident of like a decade almost ago, and the build quality is just incredible, and he wears it proudly and he's very happy with it. And yeah, Christopher Ward, out of nowhere. Oris, I always liked Oris. I always loved Oris. But where is Oris right now? They need to do a little more in watchmaking instead of just buying parts and putting them together. Christopher Ward right now has much more innovation than Oris, and it's a shame because Oris has the designs, has the history. Christopher Ward has nothing, and yet they do a better job putting a watch together and doing watchmaking than Oris. It's a shame. Now let's go to the next. The best mid-range brand, in my opinion, is Baume & Mercier, Nomos, Maurice Lacroix, and Montblanc. And you have on Baume & Mercier 18%, Nomos 66%, Marie Lacroix is 8%, and Montblanc is 8%. And I would agree 100% with you, even though I think Baume & Mercier is very underrated for what they offer. You get basically the same movements that you get in IWC, amongst others, in beautiful cases with a name that goes over 100 years back. And nobody appreciates these watches, and I am actually very, very positive into getting one of these watches one day. Now, Nomos is a whole different category. We explained why. Yet in the poll before, nobody voted for Germany being German-made watch, so that's something. Now, the best entry-level brand is Tissot 24%, Hamilton 15%, Seiko 58%, Victorinox 3%. Nobody talks about Victorinox, which I think it's a shame because Victorinox doesn't have watchmaking history, but it has a lot of Swiss-made history, and they put together some really decent watches, especially this Inox model that I have here. Seiko now, I guess, is entry-level luxury because they increased their prices. That's why it's here. Many of you went to the cheaper polls that I have. What is the best affordable watch? Seiko is not affordable anymore. Unless you go for a Seiko 5, and even then it's not very affordable. Seiko is entry-level, in my opinion, based on what I've seen. Although, if you ask me, comparing to a Tissot or a Hamilton or even a Victorinox, they lack in quality. They win in history, many times in coolness, depending on what model you're looking. But Tissot and Hamilton, which both I owned, I think they're extremely well quality for the money you're paying, especially if you buy in the gray market, on secondary market. So here's that. In my opinion, the best budget brand is Casio 46%, Timex 6%, Orient 15%, Citizen 34%. Citizen came out of nowhere with the latest releases, but Casio is really strong. I don't think it's going away anytime soon from first place, that is. But I have a Citizen Nighthawk from 8-9 years ago. Still ticks like a champ. It takes months in the darkness for it to stop ticking, and the moment you take it out, when you go out in the sun, it starts ticking right back up, and it's just amazing. I've worn it in oceans, in mountains, sweaty, working in the car, doing bunch of things, and it's full of scratches, and I love it. And this is the definition of a good beater watch. Be honest, recognizability when I pick a watch is not important, 41%, somewhat important, 42%, and 17%, very important. I think we have an honesty issue here. Okay, so if I believe this, then it's not important for you to be recognized when your watch to be recognized, and you also like a build quality and value, and also you don't care where it's made. So again, Christopher Ward should be the watch of choice for everyone, yet it's not. People still buy thousands and thousands of dollars of watches. The trends are there. Watches under $2,000 don't sell. Everything over $2,000 sell like crazy, at least Swiss-made watches. So I think we have an honesty issue here. In my case, I think I go anywhere from somewhat important to very important. Not important, again, unless we're talking about the Christopher Ward that I really, really, really like. I care about what's on my dial. I do care. I'm sorry, and sometimes I like their marketing. For example, I have the Hamilton Cooper watch that is from the movie Interstellar, and although you can say it's a marketing placement, this and that, sure, but I love the movie, I love the story. I'm a father myself, I have a daughter, and I love the everything about that movie. So having the watch always reminds me the movie, reminds me the story, and yeah, it's a pretty cool watch. In my opinion, Zenith is closer to Rolex, 70%, Tudor, 30%. Now here I disagree with that 30%, 100%, because what does Zenith have to do with Tudor? Zenith has not given any rights to anyone to dispute where they belong. They've been luxury for the longest time. They've been, I'm not going to even go to the stories where they gave the movements to the Daytona of Rolex and this and that, but they have their own designs. Granted, some of them are very bland, but Zenith is Zenith. They don't copy anyone. Well, the Chronosport, I guess, maybe. But then again, if somebody can copy the Daytona, it's Zenith. So yeah, no, Zenith is 100% closer to Rolex, in my opinion. But that's all for today, guys. Let me know what you think about these polls. Do you want more? What else would you ask? And I want at some point to have a nice video ranking these brands based on your answers. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one. Ciao.